But welcome everybody. Welcome to Let's Kill Twitter. How are you all? I hope you're all good on a Sunday. We realise that Sunday probably isn't the best time, just post-lockdown, when everybody actually wants to be outside and with real people. They don't want to be on Zoom. So it kind of worked while we were in lockdown. So this is our second one, right, Jules? Like second.
Yeah, it is our second one.
Official one. And obviously we want to get this like live when we get back out into the real world. And what kind of week have you had, Julian?
Well, I love this weather because it's like living at the bottom of a well. I'm a big fan of winter. I mean, it has actually been quite nice the last couple of days. So English, as soon as you ask me how I am, I have to talk about the weather. Generally down for that. Yeah, I mean, like kind of just a bit too crazy and a bit too busy. And ironically, the one thing that I've had less time to do is look at Twitter. It's a good job. I bagged a few juicy tweets from about 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's a great thing about Twitter, isn't it? That you can just scroll down or just look for a certain like subject matter and get it in there. Obviously, the smaller rooms, so I think you're all kind of like know the rules. Just don't shout out obscenities. Because apparently Julian will delete you like we do on Twitter. And obviously do ask questions or share your tweets in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you, and as always, any feedback and stuff. And if you've got other people that you want to send the link to, send it to them, and they can join us later if they want. But I think, Julian, we should welcome our guests so that we can kick off with our tweets. But I think because they're here anyway, we should mention who they are.
Yeah, I mean, normally I just say a bit about why I wanted to create Twitter. I'd very quickly say that I love Twitter, but I often want to talk about it. I love engaging on Twitter, and when you get something like the US election, which I will talk about later, it feels like everybody is interacting. But creating this was very much like I want to be able to kind of synthesize what I've seen on Twitter, and I want to do it the old-fashioned way through the art of conversation and talk to people. So yes, you're right. Without further ado, we're going to welcome back, because he was very kindly there for our trial run, Erich McElroy, who many of you have seen as a pundit and comedian across your television screens, currently co-hosting Comic Solving Problems with Steve N. Allen, who people will know from The MASH Report, of course. And also, very excitingly, Eric's got a pretty new podcast called Erich McElroy's American Exchange. And on it, he's interviewed some fantastic people from the world of American politics, including the former White House Director of Communications, Anthony Scaramucci, who lasted about 17 days. But boy, has he dined out on that. And also Mary L. Trump, who is Donald Trump's niece. And then we welcome tonight Juliet Meyers, who is busy writing on Sarah Millican's new radio show coming out next year, I believe, and obviously for her on television. And also checks notes, is written on Cat Stars Countdown and Mock the Week. And you're hoping to tour in the spring as well, Juliet, apparently.
Well, yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it, to actually do a live show. That I've got one that's, I hate to use the phrase oven ready. But I've got one that I've done for a while that's properly oven ready and cooked, in fact, that I do with the dog. And then I'm hoping to do another one about going to India to trace my Iraqi Jewish roots and falling out with my friend and being chased by monkeys.
Which I've heard lots of these stories. I don't think I've seen the whole show, but I've definitely heard loads of stories. And it's fascinating, and I urge everybody to go and see that. Definitely loving it. Are you touring next year, Erich? Are you going to be when we go back to normality?
I guess. I mean, we'll be doing gigs. I'm not willing to get that enthusiastic yet. Juliet's more optimistic than I am. So, I don't think. Yeah, my touring will be still. I have a feeling down the barrel of a camera.
Yeah.
From most. Interestingly enough, Juliet and I have spoken about this before.
Yes,
we don't give a shit about live gigs anymore.
Well, there was that thing first of all of how do we do this over Zoom then, and now actually I'd prefer that and feel safe and be able to then just go upstairs and put my pajamas on 30 seconds after I've been on a Zoom call.
I know. Look at this showbiz on the top. Look, I've got the bling on, got some makeup on, and then I've
Yes.
got pajama bottoms here. Look,
No, you can't ruin the mystique.
I've still got my pajama bottoms. I don't want to wear non-elasticated waist anymore.
The problem is, like I sounded more optimistic than I should be. I agree with Eric, but then, I think live is wonderful, but I want to be safe.
Yeah,
And
fair enough. Which actually, I think this is going to be something to do with safety and vaccines in the mix today in the show. But we normally like to start off because like with our tweets. Julie, do you want to start with your tweets this week that we've never even. I don't even know you've been secretive about them.
What?
Okay. Oh, you did share them. Yes, you did, but I didn't look deeper. But yeah, go on. Tell us one of your tweets, Jules.
All right, I'll start.
There's two Jules here today.
Well, let's do the scroll. I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to start with The Crown, actually, which is all the way down here.
Did you just finish watching an episode?
Have you? Oh, right. Okay. Well, I am all up to date. And let's just see. That seems.
I haven't watched
it. It was
yet,
the Diana one.
Don't give it away. The ending.
Julian is up to date, but with the series. But do you know what's happened after the series? Because Diana. Oh, I won't tell you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really like that Diana. I mean, I like the idea of that Diana character. I hope she does well.
There's nothing more soothing than a scrolling Twitter feed.
Well, Eric, have you been watching it at The Crown? Because obviously, as the American in the room, like what do you make of it?
I haven't had a chance to. That's why I was saying don't give anything away.
Okay.
I don't want to. What happens? Like I've heard this Prince Charles and Diana thing is really a hot relationship. So I hope they work out well. And,
what news of it did you get of it when you were growing up? You must have heard about it.
It's huge. I mean, when she died in was it
97?
I mean, the woman I was with at the time was beside herself. You would have thought that she'd known Diana personally, and she. I mean, a lot of Americans grieved at that level. I mean, we stayed up all night watching the funeral. It was massive in the States, and I know her life and her death connected with people all over the world, but it was remarkable. And this is pre-internet as well, so this was all done on cable news.
So go on. I think Julian's got his tweet up now.
Yeah, well, the first scroll has failed. But luckily, I found a tweet that my head doesn't actually obscure the main text of the tweet, thank goodness. So it's from comedy writer Simon Blackwell, who I very much enjoy following on Twitter. And he has picked up on the story about various comments, for example, from... who's the politics guy on Sunday mornings? Andrew Marr, who's basically said, look, there should be some kind of disclaimer on The Crown because it's not historically accurate. And there's a few issues where they're, for example, dovetailing, suggesting Lord Mountbatten had written a letter to Charles advising him on what kind of woman he should marry and what have you. And I mean, I think he probably gave that advice, but he didn't do it in the form of a letter. And then there's an issue about the liaisons that Charles had with Camilla when they took place, and so on and so forth. And and we know from, if anyone's watched the last season 4, you'll know that there are clearly bits that have been sort of fictionalized. I'm not sure if Diana did roller skate round Buckingham Palace. I mean, it is possible, to be fair, but
she rode a bike.
Okay.
Oh, was that the real story?
Ride a bike to Elton John or Duran Duran, though. I mean, that's the crucial point.
Oh, she did love Duran Duran. She did.
She did.
I don't know why I know that, but I do.
Who didn't?
Who didn't? I love Duran Duran.
So without doing too many, not too many spoilers there. So Simon's tweeted, the RSC should do this for all of Shakespeare's history plays too. This nonsense has gone on for far too long. So, nice joke at the expense of, if you want to be that correct, if you want to give disclaimers, then what else to sort of you go back to? I mean, that's brilliant, pushing it for the purposes of a joke. You could argue that there are some people that will think this is my tabloid drip of the royal family. I mean, Andrew Marr is someone who, I have agreed with things he said in the past, so it doesn't seem beyond the realm of possibility that he might have a point, because I'm easily swayed. But it's a debate. He did sort of ignite a debate. Anyway, what do you think? Just in my view.
I disagree. I think I agree with what Simon Blackwell says. I just think all of this is, it's kind of the fine tuning of how they get, it's a dramatization, but, it's, I think the bigger facts still hold true. It's just a way of getting them in, isn't it? It's a vehicle. I think it's crazy to say to have to put a disclaimer, because exactly as Simon says, then you put a disclaimer in front of so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is there's a very good quote about fiction sort of and the way it kind of brings, real truth is brought out through fiction. I am paraphrasing, of course. So I agree that there is that element to it. But I mean, obviously the Palace, who didn't really comment on the last 3 series, have kind of made it known their disapproval of this series. I mean, personally, my criticism of it was it's really depressing. I mean, they made the 1970s look good. Spoiler, they weren't.
I know.
But
well, it's interesting. I thought the royal family or Buckingham Palace weren't ever supposed to comment on anything. I mean, it's interesting. They've only started commenting about series 4, which portrays Charles in a bad light. So that's fine. Are we allowed to take from that then that all the stuff about Prince Philip being involved in the Profumo affair and the affairs of Prince Philip are all accurate then, if they're not going back to that?
Yeah, I mean, clearly they think that enough time has elapsed now for that to be much less of an issue, and that people aren't sort of getting their sort of bees in bonnets about Anthony Blunt working as the royal sort of art guy, who I found fascinating. I never knew that. Brilliant, So it does. I mean, it's a good one for history, The Crown, I have to say, because it's hurrying back to. I mean, the best thing about that series is that you get then sort of really enjoy scurrying back the fact and fiction, and then actually trying to sort of,
Yes, that's what I love about it. Although I've got some American friends who said that they were annoyed that Wikipedia had taken its facts from The Crown, so when they cross-reference,
I've just donated to them. I'm going to have to ask for my £2 back. Oh, come on.
It is interesting if they're getting upset with this television show being related to fiction, because we are talking about a hereditary monarchy and the fact that the head of state is the head of state because they are born of a certain family, which in itself is essentially a fiction. So it's a fiction based on a fiction. I don't see why that's a problem.
Well, that's meta.
It's not real. If you want to see real leadership, just look at the president of the United States.
But how is this? I was going to say, how is this any different to like when we watch stuff on Henry VIII or, all the historical royals? I mean, this just happens that these people are still alive now. And I was actually a bit annoyed because I was spoke to Juliet about this, and we're Googling. I don't know if everybody else has been doing the same thing. As you watch stuff, you Google it for facts, or I didn't know who that was. And I looked at Lord Mountbatten because I thought, I didn't know his wife copped off with Nehru. Well, that's like, that's, India-Pakistan partition. And then I looked at Lord Mountbatten, and he was actually a lot more worse than they portrayed him. He was a pedo. And it was like, oh my God, this is like, we thought they're doing bad on screen, but there's loads of stuff they've actually kept behind still. And I was surprised how they portrayed Philip very kindly, actually, much nicer than I would have. And you have some sympathy for him because of his background and how he was brought up. But that pattern then takes it into how he treats Charles. And Charles comes across as a complete and utter knob. He's vile. What a horrible man. And I liked him at the beginning of this, but I've just got to the bit where he's, and Camilla Parker Bowles, she can fuck off. Honestly, I was just like, I've got no sympathy for that bitch. She's just hoochie mama, home wrecking woman. I was just like really angered by her, which I wasn't before in like real life when it all happened. Maybe I wasn't really sort of paying attention, but on this, I think I've just really got gripped. Maybe I just need to stop watching it. I don't know. But yeah, so that's a great tweet because it's got everybody's watching it. As Karen said something, I've just seen something.
Yes.
My husband's face when he watched one of his favourite actresses become Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
That's brilliant.
And she plays it because she can't help it, because it's based on Thatcher. She has to play it almost like she's a pantomime dame or something.
Yeah. She does play it well, though. I've got to say, you forget that. I mean, what about the American fascination with the royals? I mean, do you think it's like got to Eric? This is. Do you think it's kind of increased because of Meghan? Do you think there's more of a love for the royals or less of a love for because they don't seem so remote? Parts of the love affair, was it because they were remote?
I think it goes. I think for Diana, it had to do with the whole idea of the people's princess, that a commoner could become a princess, and that's essentially what Meghan has done in real life. So I mean, I haven't been in the States much since the whole Meghan thing happened, but I mean, just looking at the way the media has absorbed it, I think that she's been quite popular there. I don't know how they've reacted to her bringing Harry home to make him one of her own or their own, but I think that's part of it. So I would imagine that storyline of becoming a princess is still quite popular, and the idea of it, is attractive. But I think we don't seem to think of ourselves as having legacy leaders, even though we've had the Bushes and we kind of had the Clintons and we had the Kennedys. We do have that in America, but we tell ourselves that we don't have that sort of history.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, as an Asian woman, I have to say, I watched that and I thought, actually, that's like any Asian household. You're not allowed to marry who you love. If you fall in love with someone, that's definitely one person they won't let you marry. You've got to keep all your dirty secrets in private. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. And you've got to keep all the secrets alive. All the the pervy uncles and stuff. You keep quiet about them. Just like an Asian household, really, quite frankly. So I felt like I was in more tune with the royal family. It's like, yeah, I can see your pain, guys. So we should move on to the next tweet.
Netflix there, Sajil, I have to say.
Huh?
Sounds like you've got a Netflix series in the making there.
Yeah. What about your next tweet?
Are we gonna go?
Oh, we're gonna alternate. Okay, all right. Shall we get? I think maybe we just rotate between all of us rather than just focus on us. Like, should we go to one of our guests and then come back to me?
Yeah. Who wants to go?
I don't know how to screen share a tweet, so
well, that's okay. Well, just tell me where it is because all the other ones are definitely here.
Which one do you want to go for, Juliet, first?
I'm happy to go for any. I feel like there's
already. Oh, there you go. There's a job one. There's a job one.
Okay, let's do this one then.
Okay.
Jonathan Pye one. Now, just to kind of recap and explain the story, I think a lot of people have already heard it, that the Vicar of Dibley Christmas special this year, she's going to be preaching about Black Lives Matter, which has completely set the nutters off, saying, as you can see, like Jonathan Pye is actually retweeting whoever Gerard Batten is. This is what seems to happen. Who is he? Oh, he's a UKIP member. I regret that. I was hoping not to platform, but this is the problem, you see, with Twitter, is I wanted to talk about this, and there was either tweets from people with a million union flags after their name who are UKIP people, or there are kind of people going, yeah, fuck you. So that's a shame. Forget that name, Gerard Twatton. But the thing is, so the Vicar of Dibley is going to be preaching about Black Lives Matter, which means that they've all got bent out of shape and said, oh no, defund the BBC, it's not fair. And he's even said, Dawn French, the BBC's Vicar of Dibley, wears an upside down cross. Well, for a start, it's not Dawn French, it is the character, and I doubt it is an upside down cross. And he says, this is a symbol of Satanism. This is what we are forced to pay the license fee for, which is, to me, just so many things to unpack. I doubt her cross is upside down, but, immediately trying to discredit a vicar on a sitcom because you want to discredit Black Lives Matter, to me, is just ludicrous. The character in the Vicar of Dibley is a female vicar. She's a vicar at Christmas, so surely she's going to be talking about equality. I'm sure there are loads of vicars that would, in real life, be talking about Black Lives Matter. I can't remember the name of the guy that got killed on the cross.
Jesus.
At Christmas, yes. So Gina fell for it. I think there was some injustice and he got killed on the cross. I don't know if the Vicar of Dibley's going to, but either way, to me, this is what seems to happen on Twitter and in real life, but even more on Twitter, this thing of, oh no, we have to discredit everything and say defund the BBC just because she's going to be preaching about Black Lives Matter. And people are saying, and I do stand to be corrected about this, people are saying that Black Lives Matter is now a political party.
Well, I was just going to bring that up. You see, what you've hit upon with this tweet, and now there's the issue with the Millwall. I might bring some tweets about what happened in Millwall at the football club. It must have been yesterday, mustn't it? And the players obviously take the knee at the beginning of the match. Yep. Now we've started to let crowds back into smaller clubs. There were Millwall fans there, not known for, well, I mean, they're not known for a great history on race, but there are there are many black players, for example, who've come through Millwall. So this has now sparked a series of tweets. I mean, I don't know whether this is the point that I should share them because it feeds into the
it does go, yeah, absolutely.
So let me just do that quickly. So we've got the issue of Dawn French, Vicar of Dibley in the
while you're looking for that, Julian, I mean, I think, because do we know that this character that she plays is not fiction? Because if they labeled the show that it's a fiction, because unless you label shows fiction, we don't know if it's a documentary about a vicar or if it's a real story. So I think that's important to check.
So luckily, the two tweets on yesterday's incident at Millwall side by side. So you've got Paul Embry, who's a former Fire Brigade union rep, was sacked over his pro-Brexit views. Sort of describes himself as Blue Labour. He's a writer. And then underneath Ed Morris, who many of us will know as a comedy producer. So Paul Embry's point is Millwall fans didn't boo because they're racist. They've taken many black players to their hearts over the years. They booed because what began as a single act of solidarity has, as usual, turned into a protracted moral lecture. This is what irritates people. Understand it. And then Ed, who I think has picked up almost directly on that tweet to sort of lampoon it. The Millwall fans aren't racist, they're just anti-Marxist, and they have a long history of anti-Marxism activism, such as throwing bananas at players they suspect of being Marxist, making monkey noises to ridicule Marxism, and beating up black people. Sorry, Marxists.
Absolutely. But what a beautiful, I love that Ed's written that, because exactly that, don't say that, there's this thing about, oh no, we're not racist, but we don't like being preached to. Well, bearing in mind that Millwall does have a racist history and that football has a problem with racism, surely Black Lives Matter is incredibly relevant. So, I don't know who Paul Embry is, but I just think that's a ridiculous argument to make. It seems overly defensive. And as for being lectured, well, there's a problem with racism. When I hear someone saying, don't be racist, I don't go, don't lecture me. I just think, yeah, there's a problem with racism somewhere. So seems crazy. And same with Vicar of Dibley.
I've got a numbrance to, like, when they say things like, oh, we've taken many black players to their hearts, it's like just doing us a favor, or we tolerate. And these words I find so offensive that even, in those protestations of, oh, we're not being racist, we're not saying anything racist, but actually by kind of cancelling us, like, or doing us a favor, like, we've taken you to our heart. We've adopted curry. As a national dish. We've done you a big favor here. Doesn't matter that we enjoy it. I find all those kind of things, it actually find out more troubling than if somebody called me actual racist names, because I just think, at least be bloody honest about it, and you don't need to know who Paul is. He's obviously,
no, I know.
Well, I mean,
you don't need to know. Don't follow him, guys.
There is an issue of, Black Lives Matter as a movement. Obviously, it comes under a title that none but the worst extremists in society can disagree with. They are honest about their platform. They do have a platform. They do have things that they want to see happening. They would be regarded by Joe Biden in terms of the defund the police, or even Barack Obama, of course, with that message. They would be regarded as an issue even by those people. So there is a kind of uncomfortable, there are some people who are obviously very uncomfortable with the idea of it as a movement, but not as a sentiment. And actually the report about the Vicar of Dibley said that when I think there was another episode of Dibley or something else on the BBC which actually dovetailed with the Make Poverty History campaign, and the BBC actually had to row back on that because it was deemed a political statement. So I mean, if they're rowing back on that, who knows what might happen here. But anyway, Juliet, sorry.
But I mean, you know, as Eric said, you know, I mean, go back to the Vicar of Dibley for a second. It's a fictional thing, and it's an issue that's happened this year. But also, I think, you know, I take your point that maybe at the margins of Black Lives Matter, I don't know what their manifesto is, but
well,
I think
it's on their website. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not sure that it's at the margins.
But I mean, in terms of defund the police, I never know what exactly is meant by that. They're not saying there shouldn't be a police force. Surely they're just saying that rather than using police to sort out racial tension, there should be trained mediators.
I think for that is absolutely what some people understand by defund the police. Not everybody understands that at all, and that's why, you know, Barack Obama a couple of days ago came out and said, look, if you want to sell policies to people that are more equitable and just, then you know, slogans like that are not necessarily going to help.
Yeah, you wanted to say something, so I'm just going to bring. I saw Eric trying to sort of say something. What did you want to say, Eric?
Well, I mean, two things with the Black Lives Matter movement. You have to separate. There's a movement of an idea of establishing the concept of the Black Lives Matter as they should matter as much as everyone else's lives, and then that's now been turned into an organization which has an agenda that's been accused of having that has said that they're pro-Marxist and all these other things. So that's where people get really just pedantic and stuck in it. So if I support Black Lives Matter as a concept, but I'm not endorsing a political organization that happens to have named itself that. And that just blows some people's minds. The defund the police, yes, I agree with Barack Obama, it is terrible messaging. I can't remember if we're supposed to not swear on this, or I would use stronger language, because I think the ideas behind defund the police are to reduce funding for a militarized American police. And Steve and I covered this in one of our shows, subtle plug there, the comic Solving Problems, that shows the police in America because basically what happens is when the US military is decommissioned things like tanks, they sell them to local county police departments. So you can be a county sheriff in the United States and you can have a fucking tank. So that's what they're talking about when they talk about defund the police. But that slogan is awful, and they should maybe listen to Barack Obama, because he won with the largest margin of victory of, I think, any US president ever, with "Yes, we can" and "Hope and change." It worked. So maybe the guy knows what he's talking about. But
I mean, obviously, I'm worried that if we ever defunded the police, in the past, RoboCop never would have been made.
Exactly. And that is a factual representation of the future of police.
So,
in a way that the Crown wasn't.
Yes.
Yes.
But okay, I mean, that's interesting. What Eric's saying is very interesting. I didn't know that. Also, what you've just said, Julian. But I still think the larger point still stands about, is that really what Millwall? I feel that.
Well, I mean, if you take it back to Millwall, then absolutely.
I feel that Millwall and the UKIP guy, I think we're crediting them with perhaps that defund the police phrases, giving them ammunition, but really, I think surely we can agree that Millwall fans, having thrown bananas in the past and used the P word quite a lot, it's not a matter of
their
line in the sand isn't defund the police.
Well, I think Millwall would say that, on the one hand, that some of those incidents obviously were a long time ago, but the club has come out and expressed its disappointment, understandably, with those fans. The intention does seem very clear. I mean, actually, when it comes to taking the knee, I don't know, actually. I suppose it is inextricably linked with BLM, but it was Colin Kaepernick, wasn't it? The Kaepernick, the American football star who kind of did that.
Yeah.
And that just seemed to be as a sort of very isolated act of solidarity, well, to some extent. I mean, it was a very genuine sort of moment. So, I mean, the heritage of that particular thing, obviously works on different levels.
Can we bring in a question from our audience? Because I'm quite conscious of time, so I'm just being time monitor. There is a question from Karen. Do US police still get 4K to buy their own gun?
Well, from what little I recall about that is that they do have programs where police can bring their own weapons into the force if they register it and so on. And so I'm sure that there are still some states that have a budget for that kind of thing. So if you want to dirty Harry yourself up, because gotta need that tank or whatever, that you can do that. Of course you can. Why wouldn't you be able to? I mean, duh. If I got a nice gun at home, if I got a kick-ass rifle at home, I don't want to bring it into work. I want to use this little tiny little thing like this.
And I think because we're staying on you, Eric, because you want to bring in one of your tweets that might follow on from this conversation. Have you got what would you like to start with?
I can't remember which tweets I sent you here. Where are we at? Let's see, which one have I got? Well, I mean, it'd be a little bit off. It'd be a little bit of a tangent. Well, we can talk. Well, Femi's talking about Brexit. There's the one from Joe Walsh, which is kind of interesting. Let's talk about Joe Walsh, because I've had him on my podcast, so there's a cross promotional plug. Joe Walsh is a fascinating character because he is, as he says in this tweet, that he's a lifelong Republican. He was a Tea Party Republican back in the day, and he said some awful things that he's apologized for about Barack Obama. Questioned, I think he even dabbled in birtherism a little bit. And I'm not sure about that, so don't quote me on that. But he said some things that he's apologized for. Far right kind of guy. Reluctantly supported Trump in 2016, but broke from him in 2018 and has spent the last 2 years campaigning against him. Lost his national radio television show because the management said, if you don't support Trump, you can't have your job anymore. And it's great. In this tweet, he's talking about, as a lifelong Republican, why he's not a Republican, because for the last 4 years, the president has attacked truth, democracy, and the current Republicans in leadership are saying nothing about it. And what they do say, or they abstain and say, well, like, for example, Trump trying to deny that he's lost the election, they don't want to go against the grain. And so they'd rather live in this fiction. And what's great about people like Joe who've crossed through that Rubicon is that he's given himself the freedom to criticize his own side and be honest about them. And then also I've even seen him compliment Democrats, something he would never have done when he was in Congress, but he's kind of freed himself up from that. So he'll talk about defund the police, and he and I talked about it, that it is terrible sloganeering. But when we talked about the fact that the police need to be, and he's a very big gun guy, he believes in lots of guns, but he agrees that they need restructuring and don't need, I bet he would agree with me that, the police don't need tanks. But because he's freed himself up and stepped outside of party politics is the only reason why he can say that. I'm sure a lot of these people who are sending the tweets, that, Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization, they know that's not true. But they're playing the game, which is what Twitter is perfect at, by hyping that up and playing to that narrative. And so that's why I wanted to highlight that with Joe, because he's kind of broken through that. And he's just said, I'm going to go against my own people. And that allows him to be free to criticize everybody, which is brilliant. Who wouldn't want to criticize everybody?
Bring a very interesting point about playing the game on Twitter, because essentially, each of us, especially those who do public things, we do it to sell the show. We do play the game, and there is a game. And if you don't know the rules, you kind of get burnt quite quickly, and that's when it does become a little bit toxic, I guess. But it's just is Twitter the new politics? Is that, would you say it's kind of like, for me, I think if we didn't have Twitter, I do wonder how we would have then perhaps voted, or even or any social media, because obviously Facebook's been blamed for getting Trump in the first place. Would you think that there would have been a different story? Did we not have all the social media that's kind of been influencing people in a very heavy way, and globally at that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we've had fascists before Twitter, but it just took them longer to get into power. So I think Twitter has completely enabled that. I don't think we would have a Trump presidency when we had him. I don't think we would have had Brexit without social media and Twitter. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, those two things are easy to call out because they're bad. There's also good things that I think happen from Twitter, and it can be, I think, a force for good in raising awareness about certain things. I mean, the fact that, is it Chris Rock who said that, there's always been police shootings, but the difference is that now there's cameras and now we can get those videos out. And obviously that gets manipulated as well. But the awareness of like what happened with George Floyd this summer, that was driven by social media and Twitter. And hopefully that will change the way policing is looked at in America forever. That wouldn't have happened if everyone wasn't able to see that awful moment.
Did Twitter create Black Lives Matter then?
well, no, Black Lives Matter's been around, but it's given it an immediate and amplified platform, which is where it can be at its worst. You know, you can see things like that. There was somebody that got punched at the Million mega march after Trump lost the election. And I say million because there's only like 10,000 people there, but they can't count. And the video that went around by some pro-Trump people was a man who's a mega supporter getting punched in the nose and collapsing to the ground. And that made, you know, Trump retweeted it. It was huge. The longer video is the guy coming out of nowhere, punching a few people, pushing some women, and just knocking a bunch of people over. And then somebody came up and clocked him. Now, any violence is wrong, but because the tweet that went out and Trump fixated on, the president of the United States retweeted, which is horrific in and of itself as a concept, was the bit that showed violence against one of his supporters. Cut out the fact that his supporter started the violence. So obviously, you know, that's
I mean,
the worst.
it's interesting what you're saying about social media, you know, in the sense that certainly 2017, perhaps not so much 2019, but if you, depending on who your Facebook friends are and who you follow on Twitter, it was kind of hard not to believe that Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, you know, I'm not a Corbynista, but it was hard to believe that he wasn't going to swing into victory because of what my timeline was sort of ranting at me, I mean, telling me. So, you know, I mean, it's sort of horses for courses, I think, a little bit. I suppose, you know, there are other factors at play in terms of how it's manipulated by advertisers and all the rest of it. But it's...
In 2014, sorry, Juliet.
Yeah.
I was against Scottish independence. I did the only show in Edinburgh that was that year that was against Scottish independence, and it was not well received. But,
that was brave.
I didn't realize I was going to do the only show, and I didn't have Julian doing my press then, so I'm sure it would have been better if he had been. But I remember because most Scottish comedians supported independence for Scotland, and I remember a Scottish comedian saying to me, like, how she wanted to know why I would do this, and I told her why, and then she's like, well, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win, and it's going to be a landslide because everyone I know is voting for independence. And I was like, okay, well, that's not, I've looked at the polls and I talked to people who aren't okay, you know, and it was close. I always thought it would be close. But she was just wrapped in that exact bubble where, you know, Corbyn was going to be victorious and Scottish independence was going to sail through. And it's scary how people, that's why 90% of Republicans think that Donald Trump has had this election stolen from him. It's terrifying.
Well, I think that is quite, you know, like with Brexit, the same thing happened. I believe with one of our audience members, we were down at Shummer's house. Were you there, Juliet?
Yes.
On Brexit night, and all of us laughing, going, "We've still got London. Don't have more champagne. We've still got London to vote." And then the look of horror on all our faces as people had dozed off in the night, waking up to Brexit and thinking, how the fuck did that happen? We were just like really shocked. And so, you know, Scotland the same way. I was convinced, like the woman that you say, that I thought they were in. I didn't think Corbyn would go down the route that he would go down. And in fact, I'll bring up a tweet in a minute which relates to that.
I might just chuck a thing in here, and then perhaps Eric can go to his Brexit tweet as well, because if I can find it, I've got my Brexit tweet lined up somewhere.
I knew there was a Brexit one, but didn't know who had it.
Well, two of it. There's two of it.
Okay. Well, I've got one on bullying that I thought could be relevant there.
At the moment, no matter what.
Although, in fairness, this is more about. Oh goodness me!
It's fascinating to see
on the wheels of steel tonight, am I?
People scroll at different speeds.
Oh, here we go.
I feel like I've improved my speed reading over the past 2 minutes.
No, it's Christopher Snowdon. Now, Christopher Snowdon is at the IEA, the Institute, I can never remember, of Economic Affairs. And you can never say IEA without saying, who funds you? Because it's a question they get asked quite a lot. So he's coming from right of centre. And he tweeted at the end of November, I can't find any mainstream news coverage about Carol Cadwallader from The Guardian dropping the truth defence and paying Aaron Banks' cost in his libel case. Strange, as her theories have attracted a lot of attention up to now. I think that's a fair point, actually. I have to say, I don't support. I think Brexit was one of the worst things that we've ever done, probably the worst thing we've ever done. But I also think the way we engage Brexiteers is pretty poor as well. And this is a vehicle for sort of me to make that point to some extent. I mean, I'm not a fan of Aaron Banks either, but there was much more, certainly on social media, there was quite a lot of coverage on what Carol said, and obviously because of what she'd done with previous work on I've forgotten the name of the company that works with Vote Leave, and there was a lot
Cambridge
of Cambridge Analytica. So rightly so, it's got profile on this. But I suppose his point is that, well, actually, when the boot's on the other foot, we don't hear an awful lot about it, really. So I thought I'd drop that in. In a Brexit.
And then Brexit. I got no Brexit tweets, but what I'm going to bring in is, I think, something that's going to go back to our audience, because I want to feel them included. It's a tweet from The Last Leg, the program The Last Leg, from, there you go, ID Doc Addy, who is actually working on the vaccine. No, not that one. Oh, there you go. That's the last one. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. Go back down. Go back down. No, it's not from there. No, back down. It's Dick of the Year time, people. Dick of the Year. So he says this is your last call to nominate Dick of the Year. And it was just a fun one. I thought that our audience could think about and maybe get trending on hashtag with our audience of 2.5 million when this finally goes out, and to tell us who's been the biggest dick of the year. So this is what I like to call a little sorbet kind of in the proceedings, and I thought you could all add your dick of the year. I was kind of like had a selection, and I didn't know. I'm not sure there has been so many. I don't know how you sort of Boris, obviously, for not acting sooner on all the events around the COVID. Trump, I think Eric's got enough reasons to kind of really for him to win. Cummings with all his goings on, as it were. Priti Patel. She's someone who I'd like to kind of like just disassociate as an Asian person. Can she no longer be part of Asian people, and can we just, I think I speak for all Asian people here, can we just get rid of her? Right, she's not ours anymore. I don't know if you can kind of
we don't want her.
Yes.
Well,
I want to go, and of course there's also the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers. There's a whole selection. So what I wanted to get our audience to do is to hashtag Dick of the Year, but with at LKT Zoom, right, which is our Twitter. If you're not following us, do follow us at LKT Zoom with hashtag Dick of the Year, and get all your friends to take part in this, and we'll retweet all of them, because they're all going to be probably viable, and it's also a sneaky way for us to promote Let's Kill Twitter. This is the smoke and mirrors, people, that I'm giving the backstage pass into what we're doing here. But who would you choose as your Dick of the Year, Juliet Meyers?
Clearly, well, hang on, can I just say that segues very nicely into the Philip Green post here. Story.
Yes.
Taken by a photographer called Jake Walters.
Is he wearing harem pants?
I know, that's what I was looking at.
It's a normal suit and trousers with two very large.
But obviously, that's a great photo.
You'd think a man that owns a clothing company could get better trousers.
But that is such a great photo, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Really love it.
Photographer Jake Walters, and it's basically, to cut a long story, to cut his tweet even shorter, Philip Green was rude to him and his assistant. He said, well, that, it's going to be rude to me. I'm having you. And he had him.
That is a brilliant picture, isn't it? I'd only just realised that he's made him look like, I've only just seen the rounded hedge. Very good.
Yeah. But that's what I was looking at. I was thinking, that's brilliant. It's amazing this whole people are being rude to you, because I had one yesterday in Brewers, which is a decorating shop. And I went in 10 minutes early, and the woman, she was basically following me around like a criminal. You can't go there, you can't there. And those fabrics are very expensive. And I said, you all right? She said, you need to wear gloves. I said, okay. And I said, oh, I like this blind. And that's very expensive. So basically it was like a Pretty Woman. I was just like going in there in the decorating shop, picking up the paint for £35, which was fucking expensive. But I said, I probably need about 10 of these pots, because I was really annoyed. And then she said, well, you can look at it on the website. You can look at it on the website, you know, at your leisure. I said, right, you clearly don't want me in the shop. And she said, yeah, well, you know, we are going to close in a little while. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but you've been really rude. And she said, I'm so sorry. And I said, you will be sorry because you don't even know if I'm a secret shopper. Big mistake, huge. And then I walked out. And I wanted to tweet them about that, about these complaints. So I think I've turned into an Asian Karen, actually. That's what's happened here. I'm going to go and speak to the managers. But yeah, so totally irrelevant to Twitter, but I will be tweeting that complaint to Brewers. Yeah, because I think
we'll retweet it on the
service.
site. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you want to know my dick of the
Yes.
year?
Go on, then.
I feel so on brand. You know, I'd love to be able to say it was Mother Teresa or something, but although actually apparently she wasn't as good as cracked up to be. But my dick of the year would be Dominic Raab. Because I feel Boris is terrible, but Dominic Raab feels even more terrible in terms of his lack of preparedness, but then trying to bluff and being, you know, again, that whole thing about him saying he wouldn't take the knee apart from anyone apart from his wife. He's been quite rude about feminists wanting equal pay. But I feel, and again, this links back to the Trump thing, I thought it was quite remarkable that when Trump was calling election fraud, and it clearly wasn't, that Dominic Raab was still hooking his cart to Trump's wagon, or whatever the phrase is, and saying, well, you know, he could be right and we don't know. And I thought that was perhaps diplomacy, but he seemed to persist well beyond the realms of sense, and it just seemed to be so typical of this government in terms of being quite bullish and bullyish, and sucking up to the bigger bully of Trump. That I just found him pathetic. I hope he goes. And also, if you watch him, he's always so unprepared. At least Boris gives himself away with bluster, but Dominic Raab doesn't close his eyes and just stares at the camera like he's been doodling dicks in class, and suddenly the teachers said, Raab, who was this emperor in Rome? And he's gone, my dad says women are awful, or something. I just can't stand him. Very long answer. Dominic Raab.
Right.
Is this a comedy show or is this just a current affairs show?
It's a chat show.
Sure
It's a chat show, and you can be funny.
I love
you
the
can
way.
do funny.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to paint with
You can swear. You can do what you want. It's carte blanche.
And then Erich is going to be all beautifully intelligent.
I just love the way, Juliet, you finish that by just saying, and my person is Dominic Raab. It's the same way my years and years ago, my grandmother called me when I was at university. And if there's anybody young out there, we didn't all have cell phones back then. This was 1990. And we had the answering machine. And my grandmother left a message. She tended to call at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, which my roommate hated. But she left a voicemail once. And at the end of the voicemail, she said, signed it, love, your grandmother, Lucille. And just like it was a formal salutation. I just felt that's how you ended that bit, Juliet. Yes. You just went, Dominic Raab.
Yes,
so,
yes.
I agree.
And my lord, in conclusion, Dominic Raab, damn it. Yes.
How about yours, Erich?
Yeah, there's so many dicks to choose from. It is hard.
You have to narrow it down to your top three, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I'd love to do something clever, but there's just, I mean, I don't think Melania Trump gets enough credit for being quite a dick. So she definitely, it got covered up because there's just so much news that happens in America, but her best friend recorded their conversations, her best friend. And she basically was just complaining. It's like, what do they want me to do? All I do is just do fucking Christmas. And that's a terrible impression, but she was complaining about the fact that as first lady, the role is ceremonial because she's not elected to anything. And so she, whoever the first spouse is gets to do, ceremonial stuff. And one of their things is they decorate the White House for Christmas. And she was complaining about it. And that got played. But when you consider that the evangelicals voted for the Trumps in massive numbers, and they clearly don't give a shit. And people tend to think, oh, Melania's trapped. She doesn't want to be there. She's going to leave him as soon as, no, she is complicit in all of this, just like the rest of them. So there you go. She's a massive dick.
Okay, I like that. I like
That's this real kind of
really turn on Melania.
We call this section of the show "You're a Dick." We'll just have it every week. We'll just have it every week now.
Well, you are, yeah. You need to have your own appendage, because the last leg seemed to have the dick thing. So maybe
Yes,
is there another body part you'd like
well,
to?
I was trying to kind of get on their publicity.
I know. It's a very good idea. But going after they do theirs, I think you need, ingrown toenail.
Ingrown toenail.
Oh, you see, this is the difference between Eric and I. Was going to say anus.
Anus horribilis.
My kids can hear me doing this.
Oh no! Oh, okay.
They just heard me call Melania Trump a massive dick. So anyway,
They'll probably go to school tomorrow on the see. Yeah, we know about Trump's wife. She's a dick.
Before we do the next tweet, Julian, the image I sent you, which I realized was gone to your phone, is breaking news that came in the last hour, which I learned because of Twitter, that Netflix has said it has no plans to add fiction to The Crown. So there you go. But I think they're talking about it because we're talking about it here.
Yeah, it's happening, guys. It's happening. It's happening. We're influenced. We're the influencers now. We're influencers.
Agenda. Yeah.
Okay, so shall we get a tweet from you, Julian? I think we've done all three.
I think I've had a bit of a lion's share, actually. I think it might.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to Erich.
Right. Well, we've talked about Brexit. I don't know if we want to go back. Do we want to talk? I mean, Femi is one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter. I think he's brilliant. If you don't know Femi, I mean, I think if you pay attention to anything, you're going to know who Femi is, and all the stuff that he does. He trolls the Brexiteers so superbly, and he's I have a personal Twitter story with Femi as well, not that personal, but semi-personal, in that I followed him early on. So this was a few years ago. It's hard to remember time now that with COVID, but he lived in Cardiff at the time, and I was gigging in Cardiff, and he came up to me after the gig because we followed each other. He's like, "I'm Femi from Twitter," and I was like, "Oh my god!" It's like this moment of like real life meeting Twitter people. And he's a lovely bloke. He's a really nice guy. But here he was. This tweet was about his message to Remainers, and the fact that I'm guessing this is a fairly Remainer crowd, and all you guys are because you're intelligent people. And
just an example of something I was saying earlier, Eric, but never mind.
Yeah, because they're voted. I think that there's lots of people who voted, and they're happy to say this. They voted against their self-interest, and I've done that as well. There's times where you have a cause you believe in, and you vote. It's not logical because people are not logical. You can't assume that. But as a Remainer, there is part of me, and I don't know if you remember this, Julian. It got picked up by the Daily Express when I said it, but it was before Christmas one year. So I got mentioned in the Daily Express saying this on talk radio, that I just hoping that the whole thing, Brexit, a no deal Brexit happens and it just burns the whole thing down or catches us, something like that. And the Daily Express caught it, but no one noticed because it was Christmas. So I didn't get too much hate on Twitter. But, there's part of me that's like, yeah, bring a no deal on and we will be proven right that this is a fucking terrible idea. So yeah, sure. Let the pound collapse. Let somebody, I don't want anybody to get hurt, but maybe you just have to, water down their insulin. Fine. Fine.
Sadly, though, I think now what looks like is happening is they're just going to blame it on the EU, though, aren't they? They are. And on COVID now. They've got the beautiful excuse of COVID, which is such a shame.
Femi's got a video about that as well. I mean, you could just go through Femi. The guy is genius.
He's great.
I don't know what he does after this, but yeah, you're right. They're going to blame. They will never take responsibility or liability for what they've done, and they've moved all their money offshore. The people who did this have moved all their money offshore anyway, and they will never be hurt. That's what's maddening to those of us who actually care about the people who will most be hurt by Brexit, is that the people who made Brexit happen will never be touched by this and never have any consequences. No. And it's tragic, but
I agree.
But more eloquent than the way Terry Christian puts it, which is if you're voting for Brexit, then you should be the first to lose your job. So it's definitely better than the Terry Christian method. You know, there you go. That's my
I'm
stuff.
conscious of the time. So,
Yes.
Juliet Meyers, please bring us your next tweet. Before I just quickly read out one of our audience members, because it is fair that we read out theirs as well. Shobha Kapoor says, my dick of the year is Priti Patel. Agree with what you said. Sajila, I'm de-Asianizing her. So hashtag de-Asianizing that could be trending as well today. And it's, if you want to tweet us, it's LKT Zoom. Go on, Juliet. What's your next?
My spin master is Julian, so I don't know. Should we be? I feel.
Let's bring a fun one. Let's bring a fun
one. Okay, then. These two together. Then, this got 2.3k tweets.
Oh, that is just too adorable.
The woman has bought a Santa Claus
coat. That's brilliant.
But you know, is that, you know, it's just very cute. But you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I mean, that dog actually doesn't seem to mind. So really, it was just a bit of loveliness.
And I know that you've got Homer that you dress up in lots of different clothes.
I do dress Homer up. I try not to dress him in anything that he wouldn't like.
Coordinated, I suppose. You know, you've done his colours. Yeah.
How do you determine that?
Well, because no, but I mean, like, if he doesn't want to wear something, like I tried to make him wear a hoodie the other day, and he wouldn't. And I think fair enough. But you know, he'd probably wear that Santa suit. And some people say to me, that's mean. Dogs don't like being dressed up. And I often think, but I see 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds dressed up in an Arsenal strip. And I think, well, I'm sure they don't necessarily support Arsenal yet. But the tweet that I particularly love that goes on from the dog one, if Julian could scroll down, is Beck Hill did this with her. Is that a hamster or a gerbil? I never know. But to me, that is genius. That she has put him in Halloween fancy dress as a vegan sausage roll.
That is funny because that's what Greg's actually do their normal sausage roll.
So it's gloriously, well, this is the thing, she said he's a vegan sausage roll. So it's a gloriously unpolitical tweet there, about the joy of dressing your pets up, which I think is a good thing to do. I did a show in Edinburgh one year, and as I was with Homer, with my dog, and as I was gathering my stuff up, the guy who was in the room after me, who inherited my audience, said, oh my God, did you see the show before this? And they said, yeah. And he went, women and their dogs, how pathetic. Am I right? And he was like, oh my God, if my best friend like shat himself, I wouldn't want to pick it up. And it was like, oh, piss off, mate. And he implied that I was overprivileged due to my race. And it was like, mate, you're very privileged. You're a very privileged guy too. So I've now politicised the lovely hamster.
You slightly inferred too, and I know the story.
Yes.
Is that because we've talked about this before? There is privilege, and we only talk about white privilege, but there is brown privilege, there is black privilege, and it's never really kind of brought out of the closet really, because obviously within compared to white privilege, you are still in a less privileged position. And so, but there is, you know, there are people who are doing perfectly well who have got brown privilege, and I check my brown privilege in actually even when I talk about, you know, sort of brown related rights or race related rights. So I think it's probably a conversation from the time, but I love this picture. I think this is this gerbil thing that's coming out.
Beautifully creative thing. Beck Hill.
There's your dog on cue. Homer is behind you on cue.
On the sofa.
On the sofa. It looks like he's about to have a poo. He looks like he actually is he? No.
He's not about to have a poo. No, he's just rearranging the sofa, I think.
Yeah. And so have we got any other outstanding any I mean I have got one that's another sort of one that if anybody's got anything to do with Eric, do you want to bring anything? Do you have got anything else, Juliet?
What else did I have here? This is something that could possibly happen, and I think it's the Brooklyn Dad one.
Right,
is that the one?
Explain this one, right? Here we go.
There we go. For the love of all the good that is left in our lives, please do not make a blue MAGA hat. So what some people have started to do is, because, you know, they've got the red Donald Trump Make America Great Again hats. Some liberals have started getting blue hats and said, America already great, to do the same thing, but it's like a shitty spinoff.
Ugh.
So it's just a stupid idea. I think this is where we need the collective will of Twitter to shame these people not to do that. And it's not the right way to co-opt a message, because it'll be just lame.
I concur.
Yeah, MAGA. I don't agree with the idea of MAGA, but it was an incredible branding. It was an incredible exercise. It was simple. It was perfect. And liberals will just fuck it up. So,
but also, America is already great suggests at the moment it isn't, because Trump fucked it up. So it's not already great. It's we're not in that sort of a defunct, isn't it? Really,
you can't. I mean, I don't agree with the message of MAGA, but it was very good branding, and you can't just copy that just by switching the colors and then change. It's not going to work. So don't even try and do it, because you're just highlighting MAGA again. So
yes,
there you go. If you see it on Twitter, if you see anyone suggesting it, stop them.
Stop them now.
Stop them now.
Do you hear that, audience? Stop them now.
You have the power.
Mass producing those basically.
Defund the blue MAGA hats.
Right, Gary.
And what about you, Julian? Have you got anything? I know you only got. Is there anything that you've got
Well,
outstanding?
Karen brought along a tweet.
Yes, our audience tweets. We have to talk about anyone, and it's not too late, guys. If you want to take part, send us your tweets. That's just caught your eye.
Good one here. I've got a Facebook file from the old days in my pub screaming, "I'm not taking the vaccine. You don't know what's in it." This is the same guy that used to buy ecstasy pills off a one-eyed guy called Ganga Gary. Or Ganga Gary. Ganga Gary? Ganga Gary. But yeah, good point. Yeah, it's a good point. I've seen this point made elsewhere about the kind of things that people would tolerate putting in their bodies versus the sudden scruples they have.
That's a nice one. That's up from Karen. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that. We'll have to retweeted that one. Oh, that should probably then take me into my tweet from ID Doctor, the little baby.
Yeah.
This is if we're going to have the vaccine, and I don't like needles. I don't know about you guys. I hate needles, hate them. And I think this is the perfect way. Can you hear? Can we get volume on this? Isn't that the best?
Are you kidding?
Isn't that the best? I just love that. That's so cute. So I want my vaccine to really live that, but also look, the bubbles, look. That's just awesome. We've got our own, the baby's got his own bubble groups. That's just awesome. I love it. And so I think if we're going to have a vaccine, then it's also the conspiracy theorist in me thinks, well, are we being distracted because all the stuff that we're hearing about the vaccine, have they done enough tests? Have they? I mean, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to lie, because I just want to, I take enough drugs anyway, so why not? I mean, legal ones, obviously. Why not just add something else? But it's going to be like the flu vaccine, because the flu vaccine doesn't. You still have to have it every year, so there's no guarantee that this is going to be gone forever. 3 months later you might need the jab again, but surely we should be, and it's just a discussion for further, surely if there's a way to kind of get back to normal, and this can help us, would you all be taking the vaccine? I will be taking the vaccine. What about you guys?
Well, I mean, as a stand-up comedian in the last 9 months, I've become an expert in virology. If you look at Twitter and Facebook, I know everything there is to know about these things. And but no, yes, it's incredible the number of people who are experts on this. I mean, luckily, one of the dads on my son's football team, he's a doctor, and we were chatting about this alongside the pitch today, freezing to death because we are doing these things for our children and they'll never remember or care. And he was like, one of the reasons why this vaccine came along so quickly is because it is based on things they were doing on the SARS vaccine, and this is very similar to SARS, and so the research, the groundwork for the research was there, and then they just had all of the world's energy and science focused on one vaccine, and that's why it feels quick, but it's all built on years and years and years and years of research. And he's like no question, I'll be taking it. So I think get it
Juliet?
in. Yeah.
Yes, what he said But also my nephew works in research for a lot of this stuff, and as a lot of people have said, often vaccines take years to come along because they're spending so long trying to get funding, or whereas with this, everyone went, wow, this is the biggest problem the planet has at the moment, apart from climate change coming, so we're all focusing. And so I think it probably has been tested enough. I hope so.
And climate change isn't real, Juliet. So.
It's just that I've got the heating on too much.
Yeah. The best part of it is that the cut-off point for taking the vaccine is about 50, and I'm not there yet. I can claim to still be young.
so you don't have to take it, or you won't get it, is what you mean?
Well, I'm like 10th. I think I can't remember what the list is like. Well, I'm sort of.
So you're letting other people be the guinea pigs.
Yes. Well.
There's rules.
I mean, I'm going to have to say, good Lord, the guinea pig, it really is that way though, isn't it? It's like, let's see if it can topple the weakest. Oh, it did. Let's see if it can topple the next weakest. So anyway, I'm taking it. I'm perfectly happy to take it, I think.
Right. So guys, in sort of the wrapping up section, do we want, let's have a bit of an audience, any questions from the audience? And I just want to know if they've got any questions or queries or comments. Obviously, you can send the really personal comments and suggestions and feedback to us via Twitter or via our email. But if you've got anything you want to say about the night, maybe there's a burning question from a tweet that we discussed, or you might just want to know where you are on the vaccine list, or whatever it might be. You can
got the list to hand.
Whack it into chat now. And if you don't, then we can sign off.
Show the pandas on the slide.
Oh, show the panda. You're absolutely right. Why wouldn't we?
No.
Oh, and Shobu's saying, thank you for the talk about the vaccine. I was worrying about it. I feel better now. I'm number 9. Oh, look at them. They're so. I want one. They are so adorable.
How come they're not ripping people's faces off? They're gorgeous.
They're just adorable. That's a good way to end, like some bit of cuddle, a little cuddle to take away from
off
this.
The slide, though.
Oh,
yes.
That's only the 30-second version. You can go to YouTube for a 1 minute 30-second version.
Well, that's a great kind of forget your mindfulness. You just want to watch pandas and like cute things, just kind of kittens and dogs and stuff. So our next show is on Juliet.
December. Should we finish these other sentences?
No. I'm just because I'm like, I can't remember the date, so I can't remember the date.
It's December the 20th. That's Sunday, December the 20th at 8 p.m. And we've got Leo Kurz and Shazia Mirza.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah. Excited. So we should be. Please plug that away. Please follow us on Twitter.
Please do share it with your friends and stuff. And obviously, some of you are going to be our future guests as well. And so I just want to say a massive thank you, together with Julian, obviously, to you two, for just bringing some really interesting, fun tweets for us to discuss. And giving up your Sunday evening. Juliet Meyers, everybody. We can all show your faces now and give us a big round of applause. Come on. And Erich McElroy, everyone. And of course, you've seen Julian Hall, the man who got this concept together, brought this to life. And of course, his co-host, me, Julia Kershey.
Yay. Round of applause for Ian.
Yay. You can show yourselves, guys. Why don't you show yourselves? And then this is Twitter. By Twitter, but this did on Zoom. Doing this is clapping. So if you're on mute and you want to just not talk to it, you want to show us, that is clapping. Apparently, it's also
sign
deaf
language.
I was about to say
that's a deaf person.
Deaf.
Yeah, it's a deaf person. It's also deaf.
Call it raving in my day, but whatever.
And I'll,
cardboard box.
Since we're using Twitter and things, I'll put the Twitter handle for the podcast, my podcast, on here. If you need something to do between now and the next show.
Well worth a listen.
Right.
Yeah.
If you put that in, brilliant. Okay, it definitely is, and I am amazed at the incredible guests, really interesting guests that you get, and a joy to share the Zoom stage again with you. Juliet, do you have anything to plug, my love?
I don't, because if I did, I'd just be like, look at this nice toast I just made. But it would be lovely if people could follow me on Twitter or Instagram, but no pressure.
At Juliet Meyers.
At Juliet
I have
Meyers.
put it in the box as well.
Yes.
And at Erich McElroy, as I've
Yes.
put that in the box too, and his podcast as well. But you've got stuff coming up as well, haven't you? Haven't you done podcasts, been a guest on yourself that they could look out for, Julian?
Julian, sorry, you said Julian.
Juliet, sorry, Juliet.
Yeah.
Juliet. I've been guest on various podcasts that are probably coming out in the new year, but I'm not sure when. And hoping to eventually be the final person on the planet to have my own podcast soon. Although this is an interesting thing because there are so many podcasts. That
No,
I think
got to get on it. This is it. It's happening.
do it now. Everyone's got
Juliet.
to have.
You'd be brilliant.
Well, actually, no. I was about to give away my big idea for a podcast.
Don't tell anybody. We all steal it.
Actually, a lot of the people in this conversation would be perfect for it. Mm-hmm.
Erich, someone's trying to find your podcast. Could you let Shobu know where your podcast is? We can send a link to that.
It's on everything. I'll give you a link here that if you click on this link, it takes you to like if you're on an iPhone, it takes you to the iPhone and so on. So let me find it here real quick, and I'll send it to you guys.
While he's looking for that, I'm going to let Julian wrap up.
Oh, I'm copying it from.
Well, I don't know what more to say to wrap up, but I mean, looking forward to the 20th. Definitely, I really enjoyed tonight. Thank you so much, you guys, for stepping up and stepping in and providing us with some really good stuff. We dovetailed very nicely with tweets without even actually synchronizing it. It dovetailed really nicely. So yeah, follow us on Twitter. Watch out for the next the 20th one on the 20th. Help us get a nice packed Zoom room for that, and obviously send in your tweets, and we'll share them on the timeline, and we'll obviously look at them for the next show as well.
Cool. I've nearly got the link to copy. You just did this fantastic end of show thing, and
and while Erich is doing that, I did forget to mention if anyone is on Instagram, I do a Friday night chat at 10:30 UK time with my friend Samina Zara in New Zealand.
Oh, that's crossing to. I still haven't caught that. Yeah, because it's always really early.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of us is always. Well, I always feel both of us could almost do it in our pajamas, but we don't out of respect.
I'll just put it on the thing.
Good
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. Really grateful. Erich's put up his link there, and you're on Instagram with Samina Zara,
yes.
And at Juliet Meyers on Instagram.
Yeah,
is that the best place to follow?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that the best place to follow?
Yes.
And what time does the podcast thing that you do this live thing?
It's at 10:30 UK time.
Yeah, I'm still asleep. 10:30 UK time. But you guys, you're normal people, so you'll be awake.
No. 10:30 at night. UK
at night.
Time.
Oh,
yes.
in the morning. Oh, okay. I thought it was the morning.
And if you tune in this Friday, it won't be any different, except that I'll be grinning because it'll be my birthday, which is
happy birthday, Juliet Meyers. Happy birthday.
That's irrelevant to anyone listening, really, but I just was like, well, I might be pissed.
It's worth it to the danger.
I'm tuning in now.
That's dangerous.
I wasn't going to watch, but now I will.
Yeah, now we're going to watch. It's your birthday. We're all going to be there. You've got an audience now. No pressure. All right,
I love it because we meander between serious and silly. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so Julia is wrapping up. I'll show up.
No, so yeah, Sean was going happy birthday in advance, and we get a big happy birthday from all of us. Big love to all of you out there who basically came in today. Please do tell your friends, and we're holding the show in day by week by week. But thank you for coming, and we've got to get out. So thank you so much. Goodbye. Have a lovely Sunday evening.